Good morning. It is good to see all of you online today. I'm Karin Landsberg with the OUUC Tech Team. I use she, her pronouns. Welcome to all who are joining us on whatever platform you are using. This Zoom service is being recorded and it is streaming live on YouTube. We are leading worship from several locations today, so you will see the service move back and forth between us. Most of our sharing happens in the Zoom chat box, which is not posted or shared publicly. We use the chat feature for greetings, song lyrics, affirmations, and applause, and items shared from the heart. Please save your comments for the coffee chat or feel free to contact Reverend Mary at minister@ouuc.org. We will be turning the chat off and on during the service today. We can expect some tech glitches as we continue to do all we can to optimize our connections. If you experience any technical issues during the service, you can reach out to Jocelyn or another member of the tech team for assistance when the chat is on. We appreciate the grace as we all remember it is about connection, not perfection. Last, I hope you will find a candle or chalice. In a moment we can light them together. Thank you for your grace and adaptability as we all learn together.
Good morning. Let's sing our morning song. It's in the Till Hymn Book, hymn number 1001, Breaths by Issei Barnwell. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Those who have died have never left. The dead have packed with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in the crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Thank you for singing.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation online worship service. We welcome each of you this morning to the celebration of love and wonder and to this congregation. The OUUC community comes together in the mutual promises and possibilities of our covenant. We envision an interconnected world that is loving, just, and healthy. We commit to live out our mission to welcome and wonder, embrace and empower, bridge and become. We're so glad that you are here. My name is Liz Clement. I identify with she, her pronouns, and I also welcome they, them pronouns. I'm a member of the worship arts team. Leading worship with me today is Reverend Justin Almeida. Reverend Justin is a Seattle area chaplain ministering at the Veterans Administration of Puget Sound and at Harborview Medical Center, where he specializes in palliative care and in hospice. He is affiliated with University Unitarian Church, which is a spiritual home for his partner, Heather, and child, Tobias. Also leading worship today is Troy Fisher, our music director. We give thanks for the tech team and to OUUC media specialist Jocelyn for providing technical support today, as always. And thanks to Darlene Sarkala, our intrepid administrator, for keeping us all informed and connected. Thank you too to the choir members who have gathered in the Commons with Troy to help us sing this morning. Oh, they're not in the Commons this morning. They're outside in the wonderful courtyard. Welcome, everyone. And thank you also to the breakout room hosts for their hospitality after the service. As well, thank you to Worship Arts team member Ann Radford for her special work and support so integral to today's service. We are so grateful for the many hands that help make worship happen this morning. After the service, we invite you to stay online for a virtual coffee chat. This is a chance to gather together with a small group to say hello and check in. Each breakout room will be hosted by someone to help make sure everyone knows each other and has a chance to share. Reverend Justin will offer reflection questions to get the conversation started. We hope you'll stay. I want to draw your attention now to the order of service, which includes our announcements, also available on the website. Please mark your calendar for the all congregation picnic next Sunday. That's next Sunday, August 22nd. We plan to gather from noon to 3 p.m. at OUUC. Please bring your own picnic. OUUC will provide drinks and dessert for food. There will be lots of fun and lots of good community. We're monitoring the COVID guidance closely, and we will keep you informed through the weekly update and the OUUC website. There are still many opportunities to stay connected to our community because, as we know, social distancing does not mean social isolation. Please keep on top of our website and check it regularly. If you have questions or need help, please check in with a staff member. Now, let us open our hearts and minds as we prepare for worship. Welcome, everyone. It is good to be together.
So this morning and every Sunday morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. Please join me as we light our chalices together with these words by Tara Humphreys. Whether you are from the South, the East, the North, or the West, whether you were born into this faith, found it, or it found you, whether you feel at home or are still trying to find your place, whether you believe in God, are open to mystery, or still have no idea, whether you are unemployed, underemployed, cobbling things together, overworking, or in school, or whether you are holding anxiety, grief, confusion, anger, hope, restlessness, or a deep peace, Unitarian Universalism has a place for you. It is right here. This chalice is lit for you.
Liz, you're muted.
Thank you, Jill. Our opening words, written by Sherry Woodbury, are entitled A Spacious Welcome. Welcome who come in friendship, who long for genuine community.
May you be graciously received here as your authentic self.
Welcome who come in curiosity, full of questions, or simply open.
May you embrace wonder and encounter new delights.
Welcome who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world or the troubles of your particular life.
May you rest and be filled in the sacred space.
Welcome who come with joy for flowing rivers and gentle breezes, for changing skies and great trees.
May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint on you.
Welcome who come with thanks for the altruism of the earth and the gift of human care.
May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you. Come, let us celebrate together this wondrous life, and let us worship together.
Let's join together in singing hymn number 89, Come My Way, My Truth, My Life. Thank you for singing.
And this morning, our story for all ages comes from an adapted tale from Buddhist tradition of the Jataka people. Once upon a time, on the outskirts of a big city in Japan, there stood an old temple. From a young age, children who wanted to study Buddhism would come to live in the temple and to work from the master teacher, a Buddhist monk. One day, the Buddhist monk who ran this small temple decided to teach his young students a lesson. He gathered them around him and spoke, "My dear students, as you can see, I am growing old and slow. I can no longer provide for the needs of the temple as I once did. I know I have not yet taught you to work for money, and so I can only think of one thing that can keep our school from closing." The students drew close with very wide eyes. Our nearby city is full of wealthy people with more money in their purses than they could ever need. I want you to go into the city and follow those rich people as they walk through the crowded streets or when they walk down the deserted alleyways when no one is looking, and only when no one is looking. You must steal their purses from them. That way, we will have enough money to keep our school alive. But Master, the children chorused in disbelief, "You have taught us that it's wrong to take anything that doesn't belong to us." "Yes, indeed I have," the old monk replied. "It would be wrong to steal if it were not absolutely necessary. And remember, you must not be seen. If anyone can see you, you must not steal. Do you understand?" The children looked nervously from one to the other. Had their beloved teacher gone mad? His eyes shone with intensity, such as they had never seen before. "Yes, master," they said quietly. "Good," he said. "Now go, and remember you must not be seen." The children got up and quietly began to file out of the temple building. The old monk rose slowly and watched them go. When he turned back inside, he saw that one student was still standing quietly in the corner of the room. "Why did you not go with the others?" he asked the child. "Do you not want to help save our temple?" "I do, master," said the child quietly. "But you said that we had to steal without being seen. I know that there is no place on earth that I would not be seen, for I would always see myself." "Excellent!" exclaimed the teacher. "This is just the lesson I hope my students would learn. But you were the only one to see it. Run and tell your friends to return to the temple before they get us into trouble." The child ran and got his friends, who were nervously gathered just out of sight of the temple, trying to decide what to do. When they returned, the master told them the words the child had spoken, and they all understood the lesson.
We came together in community this morning, bringing all that is in our lives. In this space, we draw on the strength of our community to listen deeply and hold all that we bring here with us. In this space, we share from our hearts what brings us joy and what brings us sorrow, what brings us worry and delight, what makes us afraid and what makes us dance. Let us open our hearts to the steadfast complexity of life, our own and others. If you would like to send in something to share, please look for the link in the online worship page on the OUUC website, and we'll bring it into the service next week. You will hear a drumbeat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of our community. Right now, I invite you to take a deep breath in and out as we open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our lives and community today. Pat and Walt Sonnenstuhl ask for healing thoughts for their son, Eric, who is dealing with the lingering effects of depression. They say that Eric, who lives in Ireland, is in good hands, but every ounce of love will help. Pat and Walt grieve that they have not been able to get to Ireland for over 2 years, which makes it even harder. We send our love and care to Eric and his family, as well as Pat and Walt. I invite you now to share from your heart by entering into the chat box on your screen. This is a time to share all that you wish, joys and sorrows, and whatever else is shared from your heart. As we take in what is posted, let us hear the heartbeat of our community and reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share. I place a stone in the water for all that has been shared from the heart, a stone holding the complexity of our lives, held in the water of community. And we will place one more stone in the water today for all that we hold in our hearts and that remain unspoken.
I now invite you into a time of reflection, prayer, and meditation. A selection from Rumi's The Great Wagon. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sills where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Now, let us hold a moment of silence together.
Let's sing together hymn number 1060 as we sing of hope and joy. As we sing of hope and joy today, some know only anguish and despair. How can we lift our voices in this way when some have pain and misery to spare? If a crumbling world we would renew, we must sing no ordinary song. Hills from the noisy gong will never do. In every breath, compassion must belong. Let the song our greatest hope contain. Laughter of a well-trained child its tune. Moves over every heartbeat its refrain. Its harmony from peaceful city
Our prayers and meditations deepen our gratitude for what we know as sacred in our lives and in this world. Each Sunday, we express our gratitude by joining together in service to our community and to something greater than ourselves. The offering collected here does two things. It supports the ongoing work of OUUC, which is also supported by your regular pledges. This offering also supports an organization that serves our community in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist values. For the months of July and August, our Share the Plate recipient is the Family Support Center of South Sound. We have a video to share about their work.
Good morning, I'm Trish Gregory, Executive Director of the Family Support Center of South Sound. I use she, her pronouns. It's very nice to be here with you this morning. Always appreciate an opportunity to meet the OUUC congregation and have an opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing as an organization and how your work is supporting that. So we're so grateful to have been chosen for the Share the Plate contributions this year. We're very excited to utilize those funds to work towards creating greater equity within our community. Our staff are very excited to have some new library materials that we'll have for our race equity library that allows them to check out books and to learn and grow in their own understanding of how we can be a more equitable community. So that's going to be a great resource for us, as well as the training that this grant will also provide for our organization. As an organization, our mission is working together to strengthen all families, and we just really appreciate your partnership in helping us to accomplish that. Thank you so much.
You can participate in the offering by making a donation online through the church website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen in just a moment. You can also mail a check to OUUC. Our community partners continue to need our financial support. May the offering now be generously given as it is gratefully received. Thank you for your generous gifts. Today's reading is from the Hebrew Scriptures, Genesis 1 and 2, verses 26 to 31 and 1 to 4. God spoke, "Let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature, so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth." God created human beings. They created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. They created them with infinite diversity. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge. Be responsible for the fish in the sea and birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of earth. Then God said, "I've given you every sort of seed-bearing plant on earth and every kind of fruit-bearing tree, given them to you for food. To all animals and all birds, everything that moves and breathes, I give whatever grows out of the ground for food." And there it was. God looked over everything he had made. It was so good, so very good. It was evening. It was morning. Day 6. Heaven and earth were finished, down to the last detail. By the 7th day, God had finished their work. On the 7th day, they rested from all their work. God blessed the 7th day. They made it a holy day, because on that day, God rested from their work, all the creating they had done. This is the story of how it all started, of heaven and earth when they were created. This ends our reading.
Good morning, siblings and faith. Thank you for inviting me to Olympia Unitarian Universalist congregation. I wish that I could be with you in person, and I imagine and pray that this will be possible soon. As we enter into the middle of August, I can't help but feel a sense of grief that summertime, a beautiful and all too short gift in the Northwest, is on its way out. Even with the recent heat, September is looming. I hope you've taken some time for yourselves to enjoy the sun and water, the mountains and forests. I have a confession, though. Unfortunately, I haven't taken a lot of time, and all for the right reasons. My chaplain work at the Veterans Administration and Harborview Medical Center come with long hours. I try to give my 6-year-old and my spouse, my mother, as much time as I'm able. Finishing my fellowship in palliative care and studying for board certification, looking for employment after my fellowship ends. If I had a superpower, it would be the ability to create more hours in a day. For some of you, perhaps many, this can sound familiar. Not excuses, really, they're more like reasons. Life is full, and many times, and I hope full of blessings. And still, I wonder, is there another way? Perhaps I'll rest when I finish all the things. That's what our culture promises, right? That if I work hard and do all the things, I'll reap the rewards of retirement and leisure. The problem, though, with this belief is that it isn't true. My years in hospital ministry has taught me something about human behavior and life. First, a universal truth. We are not promised a single day of life. Second, there are many regrets upon dying. I wish I had more time. I should have taken time to be with my children. I could have spent more time with my spouse. I wish I had gone on that trip when I had the chance. I should have done more for myself. The lessons I take away from my patients is that if I do not rest now, the only rest I may have will come after I am dead. And at that point, at least in my theology, it's not going to be worth it. Our faith is rooted in the here and now, and I want to rest in the here and now. Rest is a natural part of life on our planet. The cyclical changes of the seasons, with dormant winter giving birth to an apex of activity in the summer. Most of the animals in the world need periods of rest and sleep. Even in the Hebrew scriptures, as we earlier heard, God takes a break after creating the universe. And even in the Christian scriptures, Jesus of Nazareth needed to take a break once in a while. In the Gospel of Luke, after the miracle of loaves and fish, which is actually more about economies of abundance than it is about miracles, Jesus took off on a boat to get some alone time. The human need to rest and rejuvenate is not a privilege. It is a right of all living creatures. And yet, I find myself feeling guilt and shame when I have an idle moment, which is neither healthy nor spiritually enlightened. And flowing from and perhaps rooted in this rejection of rest is another common phrase I hear from my patients. What good am I if I cannot do anything? I usually hear this after a patient has had a diagnosis of terminal cancer, COPD, an amputation of a leg or the arm. Whatever the illness, it comes with a drastic decrease in the ability of the patient to work, to be productive, to do the thing. And in so many of my conversations, I have been able to see myself saying the same thing. What good am I if I cannot do? As if instead of a human being, I am a human doing. It doesn't help that our culture places doing as an exemplar of righteousness. I believe my addiction to doing is systemically learned, ingrained in my behavior, stemming from generations and generations of Puritan and Pilgrim roots, and through the lies of capitalism, which say laziness is evil. God helps those who help themselves. Wealth equals moral goodness. All of which are unspoken truths in our culture, none of which appear in any of the religious and spiritual scriptures that I've studied. These scriptures place human flourishing and well-being as a goal of work, not as an afterthought. Therefore, I propose our Unitarian Universalist principles can help guide us in a spiritual revolution against the tyranny of doing over being. Our first principle, where we covenant to uphold the dignity and worth of all people, extends to myself as well. It extends to yourselves. And I have found that my addiction to doing denies my own dignity and worth, because it puts my physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being at risk. Numerous medical studies have shown that increased cortisol levels from stress and lack of sleep impairs my body's immune system and makes me more prone to illness, whether it's a flu virus, heart disease, or stroke. Cognitively, lack of rest comes with reduced memory, decision-making, reasoning, and problem-solving. There is a decrease in sex drive and the ability for sensual intimacy with partners. Weight gain, diabetes. I'm even more accident prone, making me up to 3 times more likely to be involved in a car crash. Rejecting rest is risky. There is another part of our first principle in play, my ability to extend dignity and worth to others. Many patients have confessed being difficult to their nurses, doctors, and caregivers. One person in particular, a patient with chronic pain and terminal cancer, told me, "I feel bad for being such an asshole. It's like I'm not myself, and yet the nurses, you, keep coming back and caring for me. I don't get it." I reflected on his words and replied, "You know, when I'm in pain and sick, I'm not always my best self either." And he said, "You know, I've never really thought of that. My pain does make it hard. I'm so focused on myself, I forget to think about others." My addiction to doing comes at the cost of my relationships. As I burn out, I have a reduced capacity to consider the worth and dignity of others, which makes rest a necessary spiritual practice of our faith. As I learn to uphold my own worth and dignity, I become better able to extend this to others, my partner, my child, my coworker, even my racist uncle with the MAGA hat. The principles of our faith do not discriminate. If all are truly welcome at the table of life and love, I must be committed to being a steward able to do the hard work of community, which requires me to show up in abundance with joy, creativity, and love. Our second principle focuses on justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, in which rest is needed to fight against exploitation and abuse of human beings and the earth. It's no secret that poverty has increased in the United States as gap between rich and poor has expanded, with a living wage far from achievable for many families, especially for people of color. To live in Seattle, according to research by the University of Washington in 2020, a single adult with an infant would need to earn $34 an hour to make ends meet, which is twice the minimum wage. This is reflected across the country, with many people working 2 or 3 jobs just to live, never mind flourish. We have made rest a luxury only available to the rich. And this is anathema to our beliefs, being neither just, equitable, or compassionate. When I subject myself to these conditions and normalize them, I buy into the myth that doing equals love. Doing equals relationship. Doing equals goodness. A myth cultivated through generations in my own family. My grandparents on my father's side immigrated up from Mexico. They were told that the only way to succeed would be to work hard and become American, and they did. even though my father's family lived in poverty for decades. With the children going off to work at early ages to help support the family, my father learned to equate love for family with work. And so I inherited this narrative too. Growing up, I believed that what proved my goodness was in what I could do, as if I could ever do enough to earn love from my family, friends, partner, and child. What I learned later, through therapy and discernment, was that my ability to be available and vulnerable with my loved ones is the real avenue to love, which begins with finding what balance looks like in my life through the lens of justice, equity, and compassion. Is it just to spend more time at work than with my partner? Is it compassionate to my child to leave the house before he wakes up and come home after he goes to bed? No, I don't believe it is. I believe goodness and love flow from my relationships with, not doing for, the people in my life. The same is true for our church. If we as a religious people are going to challenge the systemic evils of our time and place, like poverty and human exploitation, we have to begin with how they have infiltrated ourselves, which means it is just, equitable, and compassionate to allow myself the luxury of rest, making sure that I have the energy and capacity to then make sure it's available for others. Our third, fourth, and fifth principles focus on our capacity to grow our spirituality through mutual support as we search freely and responsibly for truth and meaning. Many, if not all, spiritual traditions teach a need for meditation, contemplation, and retreat to enrich our human being in the world. Rest is a particularly difficult part of this process because, at least in the United States, we equate rest with laziness and laziness with moral failure, which is a false equivalence. The definition of rest is to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength. The definition of lazy is unwillingness to work or use energy, showing a lack of effort or care. The first is necessary for rejuvenation. The latter is an orientation of apathy. And a strange association happens between the two because without a period of rest to recover mental, spiritual, and physical strength, I will become most definitely unwilling or unable to work or use energy and cease caring. The ceasing of care, the ceasing of my capacity to be concerned about the welfare of myself and others is a symptom of burnout and leads to spiritual death. With patients who have ceased to care about themselves and others, there is a palpable void of pain and despair. They become nihilistic, saying nothing matters, and push away any connection that would cost the energy of caring. Their deaths, in my opinion, are tragic, often lonely, isolated, and angry. No, this is not who I want to be at any point of my life or my death. I am called as a Unitarian Universalist to care for this world with all of my heart, mind, soul, and strength. And if rest is a spiritual practice that helps inoculate me from despair, then I am morally and ethically obligated to do it in abundance and with joy. Our final principles, our goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and our respect for the interdependent web of all existence remind me that rest is not only necessary for my own well-being, it has a direct effect on how I show up in the world. Earlier, I mentioned how when I am in dis-ease, I find it difficult to be my best self. The repercussions of this are not just in my own grumpiness, anger, or sensitivity. What affects me will in turn affect others. There is a quote from priest and mystic Richard Rohr that I have found to be humanly true. Quote, "Brokenness untransformed will become brokenness transmitted." In nature, it is the law of cause and effect. In human development, it is the cycle of violence. In health, it is the vector of contagion. Disease spreads, meaning if I do not mind my own health, in which rest is a critical component, then I will spread my injury out into the world, whether it's having a short temper, a weakened immune system, or a lack of compassion. To paraphrase the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we are woven into a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly will affect all indirectly. I am certainly my sibling's keeper. In the way that I'm my own keeper, my attention to a spiritual practice of rest is one way to resist a culture of dehumanization that relies on overwork, overperformance, and excess, which strips being human from its meaning and the very earth of her bounty. As I turn towards consumption to mend a spiritual wound that can only be healed through human connection, which is incredibly hard when I'm not even connected to myself anymore, much less to someone else. So, siblings in faith, how do we cultivate a spiritual practice of rest? Especially when it seems like our lives would fall apart if we cease to overperform. I have found, like with many spiritual practices, it helps to begin small. While listening to On Being with Krista Tippett, as she interviewed the French-born Buddhist monk Matteo Ricard, known medically as the happiest man in the world through the scans of his brain, he said, "We do exercise every morning, 20 minutes to be fit. We don't sit for 20 minutes to cultivate compassion. If we were to do so, our mind will change, our brain will change. What we are will change. I have a friend who is 63 years old. He used to be a runner when he was young. He gave up running. Now, a few years ago, he started again. He said, when I started again, I could not run more than 5 minutes without panting for breath. Now, last week, he ran the Montreal Marathon at 63. He had the potential, but it was useless until he actualized it. So is the same potential we have for mind training. But if we don't do anything, it's not going to happen because we wish it so." End quote. In this vein, our spiritual practice of rest begins with a choice. I will rest. 5 minutes for breathing after my lunch hour, leaving work on time 1 day a week, scheduling 10 minutes, no, 30 minutes a week for something joyful, even putting it on the calendar. Eventually, rest may turn into a commitment of Sabbath, which in the Jewish tradition is a holy time set aside for rest and rejuvenation. I have many colleagues who put on their email signatures, "Monday is my Sabbath. Please do not expect any emails in this time," and who turn off their devices for hours, if not for the whole day. I've already begun to do this. slowly changing my relationship to work and doing, exploring what it means to just be, trying to let go of my conditioned behaviors of shame, laughing at myself, learning how to play again, how to enjoy a soft breeze coming off of the sound, to realize myself as worthy of health and well-being, remembering how to be human once again. Siblings in faith, however you begin to explore rest and make it real in your lives, recognize that this is rooted in our Unitarian Universalist identity. Use our principles as guides, our sources for inspiration, and find pleasure in realizing that, at least in our country and our culture, rest is an act of rebellion against the systems we are working to dismantle. Bigotry and discrimination, poverty and dehumanization. Rest is crucial in empowering us to show up as a religious people. It is essential for being a people with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. And so I invite you all into a holy revolution of rest, with its radical notions of human being and countercultural ideas of happiness, flourishing, and joy. May the rest of your summer and the rest of our lives be filled with time to be our best selves, for ourselves, each other, our world, and the earth. And so, speaking of rest, let us be in silence together for a moment of reflection and stillness. May all this be so. Amen.
Let's sing together hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Oh, that is a beautiful song. Thank you. We extinguish our chalices with these words by Kendall Gibbons. There is, finally, only one thing required of us, that is to take life whole, the sunlight and shadows together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humor and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore, let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives. Siblings in faith, go now in peace to love and serve the world. Amen.
Let's sing together our unison benediction. How bountiful